afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. You have Alyssa Corum here, and I am joined by Ed Carson. It was a rough day on Wall Street, and it looks like the major indexes finished at session lows. At least the NASDAQ did. A heavy loss there. And Ed, we're going to be analyzing 3 stocks for the audience. Could you give us a preview?
Yeah, we're going to take a look at O'Reilly Auto and Kirkland Lake Gold, both of which are setting up fairly well, and Intuitive Surgical, which we've mentioned quite a bit, which did not act very well today.
Yeah, we'll check back in on that one. But first, a look at the major indexes. As you can see, another day of red here. The NASDAQ closing down about 4.1%, the S&P 500 down 2.8%, and the Dow down 2.3%. And where we left off on Friday, I mean, it was, I guess you could say, a little bit of a cup half full situation with that bounce off of the 50-day and closing well off of the lows. But when we took a step back and looked at that weekly chart, I mean, it was definitely an out of character week to the downside, meaning more weakness could be expected. And that's what we got today.
Yeah, it's not too much of a surprise. I mean, it would have been possible we keep on rallying from there, but now Friday's action doesn't look so good. Now it just looks like another negative day because we're hitting right at the lows. We're at an area where you might expect support, but if we don't hold support, then there's not much to keep it up from there. I mean, just a lot of stocks had really, really strong runs, and they need to take a rest. And so we saw Apple fall hard. I think Tesla was down more than 20%, but it was across the board in tech and in a lot of other areas too, really strong losses.
Yeah, and we're also going to check in on the S&P 500 by looking at the spiders, SPY, the S&P 500 tracking ETF, also down and nearing its own 50-day line after looking pretty strong itself until a couple days ago.
Yeah, you saw how those last few days in the NASDAQ finally sort of pushed up the S&P, and now the S&P, which has so many of those big techs in its index, really coming down towards its 50-day line as well. It's really a pivotal time. I mean, it's like, yes, the market might find support here, but it might break. And so this is why you really want to be extremely cautious with new purchases, if at all, and may still want to be defensive with your holdings, taking profits, cutting any losers, and just taking a real conservative approach.
Exactly. And we're going to take a look at a couple of names for your watch list, and O'Reilly among them, closing down fractionally today, but really hanging in there in a nice, tight, flat base with a depth of just 7% and really holding this 21-day line as well.
Yeah, it's a base on base formation with that huge consolidation before. And, in this coronavirus market, I mean, often in down markets, this stock will do well. If like, because it's like that, your repairs hold on. In recessions, people repair the cars more. Here we are in a recession. People are stuck at home, so they may not want to spend money, and they have the time. So
yeah,
they're probably
maybe trying to pick up a new hobby. I don't know.
Picking up a new hobby, or you're going to do some things that maybe you would like. Maybe you wouldn't change your oil. Maybe you are changing your oil. Maybe you're doing some repairs that you wouldn't otherwise. And if you can look down at the earnings, they had really strong earnings in this last quarter. And this is really out of character for this stock. 57%, that 19% sales growth, to have that kind of boost. Now, obviously, this is probably going to be somewhat short term, but you could see it happening for a while. And it's definitely one that, it's held up very well. As you said, it's like, even if it doesn't work tremendously, it's probably not going to fall apart in the same way that some of these others did, at least not right away.
Yeah, but not a buy here, just clarifying. It's on our watch list. We want to be trading in trend with the market. And when the market is coming under pressure like this with the heavy losses, a lot of leading stocks falling apart, that's not the time that you want to be aggressively buying. As you mentioned, Ed, really looking at your portfolio with a fine-tooth comb and making sure you're protecting yourself. And we also want to look at Kirkland Lake Gold KL, which had a nice upside reversal at the 50-day line here today, closing up about 0.2%. But it was the second day in a row that it came down to that 50-day and was able to find a bit of support at that level.
Yeah, that is nice. It's nice to see that. Of course, sometimes you can hit that, and then it breaks down. So it's not a guarantee. Oh, it's held there. A lot of gold stocks did that today, and so this could be used as a hedge sometimes a little bit, but it's a little confusing. You just don't quite know how it's going to react. Gold has moved with and against the market, sort of sideways to the market, and so how the dollar, how the economy, how the rest of the stock market reacts, you could see the gold stocks all move at once, and so this can be sort of counter-cyclical, but at the same time, you have to really know what you're doing here with the gold stocks as well.
Exactly. And if you are trying to buy a bounce off of the 50-day, really be careful given the bigger perspective of where we are with the market trend. It is not what it was just a couple days ago,
That's
early
right.
last week. Different tone in the market now. And last but not least, we're checking in on Intuitive Surgical. Ed, as you mentioned at the top of the show, this is one that we were keeping a pretty close eye on last week, and it was holding up well until today. So they hold up well until they don't, and you just always have to keep an eye, even if something is holding up well when the market comes under pressure. It doesn't mean it will stay that way.
Yeah, so if people bought at the 704.10 buy point, probably want to get out of it because you had a solid gain and now it's a loss. Probably wanted to get out of there at that point. If you bought it from the prior buy point, you could hold it here. It's actually on a weekly chart pretty close to the 10-week line. So you could, you could try holding it off of something like that, seeing if it can avoid a decisive break of the 10-week line. But yes, it's just one of those situations. If you have a small gain in a stock in a bad market, I mean, what is your upside? I mean, yes, obviously the market could turn and then you've got it, but there's just a good chance that it's going to come down, even if it's held up for a while. It holds up until it doesn't. You're absolutely right. And, we'll have to see. It's a great story, especially if
Yeah.
coronavirus cases come out, but stories can't overwhelm market sell-offs.
That's exactly right. So another one just to keep an eye on, like you said, if you do have a lower cost basis, see how it acts around that 10-week line. So only time will tell, but we will definitely be keeping everyone up to date on the latest market conditions and our team's take on that, not only on this show, but every morning as well on IBD Live. That is our in-depth daily morning live stream where experts are sharing their screens, talking about portfolio strategies, stocks that earlier in the rally were breaking out and actionable, perhaps maybe less actionable opportunities other than those leading names that are now presenting sell signals, Ed.
Yeah, I would just like to say, I mean, IBD Live, look, it's a lot of fun when the market's going up, and we have a lot of fun. It's more fun when the market's going up, but I think these are the times that it really matters to be paying attention to the market. I mean, IBD Live is a great way to do that, but paying attention because you need to protect yourself and be ready. This is when you want to protect those gains and protect your psyche for the next big run. So, but this is really an important time to be paying attention.
Exactly. Just as we were in February, paying attention very closely. And in early April, when we did see those signs of a turnaround. So, we don't know what will happen next, but we definitely know how to react as best we can. So, we hope that you follow along over at investors.com/IBD Live if you have not checked that out yet. We strongly encourage you to do so. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.